Here are 5 reasons to support the annual Catholic Appeal. 1. Emergency assistance to those in need. 2. Inspiring young people to grow in their faith. 3. Keeping our homebound connected in the faith. 4. Crisis help for young families. And 5. Catholic education, forming our future leaders in mind and heart. We are sowing the seeds of God's love with your contribution. Please donate today online at diospringfield.org.
Coming up on this edition of Reel to Reel.
I'm Nick Morganelli, and we'll speak with Deacon Leo Coughlin as he retires from his position as director of the diaconate office, and I'll introduce you to Deacon Dave Picard.
Sunday night is Oscar night. Mark Giza takes a look at this year's nominees. And we are back in the kitchen with Father Brian McGrath with a super good recipe you will want to try. These stories are coming your way next on Reel to Reel. Hello and welcome to Reel to Reel. Deacon Leo Coughlin has been the director of the diaconate office of the Diocese of Springfield for nearly 20 years. Now, with the recent announcement of his retirement, Bishop William Byrne has named a new director. Nick Morganelli spoke with Deacon Leo Coughlin about his years of service and introduces us now to the new director of the office, Deacon David Picard.
A Mass held at St. Michael's Cathedral was well attended as Deacon Leo Coughlin was offered blessings from Bishop Byrne on his retirement as director of the diaconate office. The bishop also proclaimed a truth about him in his homily.
They forgot to teach you one word. That was no. Because he always says yes to whatever needs to be done and whatever needs to.
And his daughter agrees.
People call him because they know he won't say no. They know they can always rely on him. He has had his hands full, to say the least, for the past 18 years being the director. But he loves it. His phone constantly rings, constantly. And every time he picks it up after pleasantries have been exchanged, it's always, what do you need? How can I help? What can I do for you?
Deacon Jack Antea was in Deacon Coughlin's ordination class in 2001, but has known him for 45 years. He shared similar feelings about the discernment to be a deacon.
Our 3rd year of formation, it's a pretty strenuous time. He came to me once and he says, Jack, he says, why am I doing this? And I said to him, same thing for me. So we persevered, and I'm glad he did. I'm glad he did.
And there was a time when Deacon Coughlin was unaware of the position in the church, let alone the role deacons fulfill.
I've never heard of the word deacon before. We live in Hamden, and I was working in Worcester, and I never saw a deacon. Back in 1995, never saw a deacon, never heard about what a deacon was. And I woke up one day and I said, I should find out what this deacon means. And my pastor at the time at St. Mary's Church in Hamden, Father Tim Murphy, he was the leader of the diaconate office. So when I mentioned it to him, he said, oh, you'd make a great deacon. And as Paul Harvey says, now you know the rest of the story.
He's always caring, kind, giving. He was always at all of my dance recitals, any of our games, my brother's games. He was a hands-on dad in the 70s and 80s before it was popular. Now dads are everywhere. Back in those times, it wasn't so much, but my dad was present at all of our activities. He never missed anything. And I think that speaks volumes to who he is as a person. And, we're just grateful for that. The person he is as a deacon is the person he's always been. So I think just adding the role of a deacon, it just enabled him to help more people and support more people because he's always been this person.
And what brought Deacon Coughlin the most joy over the years?
Every ordination. Because the men and their wives who were getting ordained that day are so excited to be serving our Lord, and that we had a small part in making that happen. Those are the days that I reflect back on and really said, job well done.
And we can expect to see Deacon Coughlin continue his service to the church as deacon of St. Michael's Cathedral Parish, along with his wife Maureen's continued support.
If I could just give a shout out to my mom. They say behind every great man is a greater woman. And my mom really has been so supportive of him through the years. She fine-tunes all his homilies and eulogies just to make sure they're grammatically correct, because she was a teacher in the school system for 30 years. When my dad would be with people when they were going through a hard time, my mom is home cooking a turkey pot pie or Irish soda bread or pumpkin bread. So at the end of a long, difficult day, families came home to a warm meal and some comfort food. That's her way of giving back to people.
Well, we've all heard the saying, you've got some big shoes to fill. Well, Deacon David Picard is ready for the challenge.
I'm very nervous about following in Leo's footsteps, but at the same time, I am excited. My plan was to retire from the business world at 70 so that I might focus on the diaconate work for the rest of my life, actually. And so I knocked on the door here with Leo and said, Leo, I'm looking for something to do. He said, it's interesting that you should mention that. I'm going to be retiring in a couple of months, and I'd like you to consider filling my shoes. We're going to go through a standard process for recruiting my replacement, but I'm hoping that you'll consider it, which I did.
The friendship of these two deacons has grown over the past 10 years, which makes the transition of diaconate director very natural for both of them.
I've known Leo for probably 9 years when I was first recruited into the diaconate. And what I can tell you about Leo is he's the most humble, most pastoral person I've ever met in my life. One of the responsibilities of a deacon is to engage people when they're down, to engage people when they need to hear the love of Christ. And I've never seen anybody like Leo do just that. And he's put together a wonderful program that allows people to be formed in Christ, so that when they're ordained, they're able to go out into the parishes and serve in the parishes, and hopefully have an opportunity to work in the diocese as part of ongoing programs.
He's given so many years of great and generous service. He has done so not just with excellence, with faith, but with real joy. I know he deserves to kick up his feet and relax a little bit, which will not be anything he'll ever really do, but enjoy some time with his lovely wife, Maureen. So I'm grateful for his service.
I'll have more on the diaconate office and new director, Deacon Picard, in a future report. Celebrating in Springfield for Reel to Reel, I'm Nick Morganelli.
I'm Dan Dumas with your Reel to Reel news briefs. At the outdoor shrine of Our Lady of La Salette at Holy Trinity Church in Westfield, parishioners from several area parishes and community members gathered to pray the Rosary earlier this month, all in support of first responders who have answered the call during the COVID-19 pandemic. David Martin reports.
The Public Square Rosary Rally was planned by Alicia Bellinger, a parishioner at St. Peter and St. Casimir Parish in Westfield, as a way of inspiring those who have been isolated during COVID-19 to offer prayer as a community. Signs and banners encourage passers-by to honk and show support for first responders.
I gotta pray for them. You know, there's little bells going off in my head, these poor people. They risk their lives every day, and their families need to be prayed for too, because they're letting their policemen go out there, they're letting their EMTs go out there. They don't know if they're going to come back. Lord, have mercy on us.
Bellinger led worshipers in praying the Rosary. She asked some of the young people present to come up and lead in praying decades.
Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou amongst women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus.
Zdrowaś Maryjo, łaski pełna, Pan z Tobą, błogosławionaś Ty między niewiastami.
One decade was recited in Polish. Ann Lentini, a longtime parishioner at St. Mary Parish in Westfield, has a son who is a firefighter, a daughter who is a police officer, and a son in the Air Force. She believes praying the rosary is an essential plea to ask for God's strength and protection for those wearing a uniform and for their families.
It means a great deal to me to participate, to pray for our police, our EMTs, and all of the people who believe in our Lord. It's very important, highly important, because truthfully, we're not going to survive without God.
After praying the rosary, the group recited the Litany of St. Michael, the Archangel, who is a patron saint of police and first responders. In Westfield, I'm David Martin.
And congratulations to the Springfield Cardinals, the club hockey team from Pope Francis Prep, for their national tournament win this week.
And as the final seconds tick off the clock, Springfield has just won their first USA Hockey High School National Championship.
The boys hockey team defeated New Trier of Illinois this past Monday 3-0 in the finals of the USA Hockey National Championship. Due to COVID-19 restrictions, Massachusetts high school hockey state tournaments were again canceled this year. The team, made up of players from Pope Francis Division I team, entered the national tournament in Omaha, Nebraska after qualifying by winning a 4-team playoff organized by Hockey Night in Boston. The Springfield Cardinals dominated the national tournament play, skating past Jesuit 16-1, North Broward Prep 12-0, and Orange Lutheran 5-1 before defeating New Trier. Our congratulations to the whole team. Great job. And remember, you can always stay informed on all the latest news in the Catholic Church locally and beyond by logging on to iobserve.org. There you can read articles written by our Catholic communications staff and watch on-demand episodes of Reel to Reel. That's iobserve.org. I'm Dan Dumas, and those were your Reel to Reel news briefs.
Thanks, Dan. And there's still more ahead on this edition of Reel to Reel. Sunday is Oscar night. I will talk with Mark Giza about this year's nominees. And look who's back in the kitchen. Father Brian McGrath has a super good recipe for us. These stories are still ahead on Reel to Reel.
Like Catholic TV on Facebook. Once you're there, you can join in on discussions, make friends with other Catholic TV fans, watch behind-the-scenes videos from the studio,
just finished this
see 1, 2, 2, and stay up to date with the Catholic world. All this at facebook.com/CatholicTV.
Here are 5 reasons to support the annual Catholic Appeal. 1. Emergency assistance to those in need. 2. Inspiring young people to grow in their faith. 3. Keeping our homebound connected in the faith. 4. Crisis help for young families. And 5. Catholic education, forming our future leaders in mind and heart. We are sowing the seeds of God's love with your contribution. Please donate today online at diospringfield.org.
Hi, Mom. What are you doing today?
Providence Place, owned by the Sisters of Providence, an ideal rental setting for retirees to continue their active, independent lifestyles. We have bright 1- and 2-bedroom apartments, a magnificent chapel with daily mass, restaurant-style dining, and wellness and entertainment programs. Call for a tour, 413-534-9700.
Mom, call me when you're not so busy.
We have recently passed the 1-year anniversary of the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic, and with the widespread availability of vaccines, are now anticipating a return to cherished in-person activities, including liturgies, parish events, and diocesan celebrations. As we embark on this journey, we are led by Bishop Byrne, who in his first pastoral letter, Back to Better, Our Road to Emmaus, provides a roadmap that leads us through Scripture and the Eucharist to the mission territory of evangelization that is the joyful sharing of the gospel of Jesus through the example of our daily lives. The pastoral letter is the cover story in the April issue of the Catholic Mirror. In this issue, we also feature the Stockbridge-based Marian Fathers of the Immaculate Conception of the Most Blessed Virgin Mary, whose congregation is now in the midst of a multi-year celebration of the 350th anniversary of its founding. After surviving more than 3 centuries of conflicts and persecutions, it is no surprise that the Marians' ministry persevered during the pandemic, reaching an ever-widening audience of believers through their digital, online, and print media. In other local news, the College of the Holy Cross in our neighboring Diocese of Worcester has named its first lay and first Black president, Vincent Rougeau, who is currently the Dean of Boston College Law School. We also recognize Father Piotr Salik, who was appointed Vicar General and Moderator of the Curia, and Father Daniel Pakalik, the new Diocesan Director of Pro-Life Activities. And as Bishop Burns' recently published book, 5 Things with Father Bill, continues to grow in popularity, it also has received the Illumination Gold Award. Finally, our parish angel, Meg Scowron, believes serving her Pittsfield parish is the perfect way to thank God for the gift of her life. As we continue our celebration of the Easter season, we are more than ready to welcome the Bishop's invitation to embark on the road to Emmaus, the Marian Fathers' gift of hope, the endless mercy of God's unconditional love, and a renewed appreciation of the blessings of life in the presence of the risen Lord. At the editor's desk, I'm Rebecca Drake.
You are watching Reel to Reel, your window on the world around you. Here again is your Reel to Reel host, Sharon Rulier.
Sunday night, the 93rd Academy Award ceremony, presented by the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences, will honor the best films of 2020 and early 2021. Joining me now is Mark Giza, the host of our Real Culture segment. It's nice to have you back, Mark.
It's great to be back, Sharon.
Now, it's been a strange year for sure for movies and movie watching, but here we are about to celebrate another Oscar ceremony. How have you been watching movies through the pandemic?
Well, luckily, Sharon, I'm a member of the Broadcast Film Critics Association, so I have a lot of the movies sent to me, but most of them you can find on Netflix or on Hulu or Amazon Prime, most of the streaming organizations.
Now, what were some of the best performances this year?
Well, I think we have to start with Chadwick Boseman's performance in Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. He will win the Oscar posthumously, which hasn't happened since Heath Ledger won many years ago. Viola Davis in Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. Carey Mulligan gave a really wonderful performance, but my favorite movie was The Sound of Metal with Riz Ahmed and Paul Raci, both giving terrific performances, and that's available on Amazon.
And who are the real contenders for Best Picture?
I think the picture that's really going to take it is the one that's been taking most of the prizes, which is Nomadland, which is available on Hulu. It's a fantastic journey for a woman and her van, played by Oscar winner Frances McDormand. And McDormand will win another Oscar, but it will be for producing the film, not for acting in the picture. Also, there's a terrific film out there called Minori, about a small family who comes together in Arkansas to start a family farm. It really touches your heart, and it's extremely well done. It is with subtitles, but it's one of the films that will just stay with you.
Well, I can't wait to watch the ceremony on Sunday night, especially since people will be able to attend and it won't be on Zoom. Mark, thanks so much for being with us today. And finally today, with all of the nice weather and pandemic restrictions easing up, we thought it would be a good time to pay a visit once again to Father Brian McGrath, the pastor of St. Mary's in Lee, to see what he's got cooking this spring season. Well, it is so great to be back here in Lee with you, Father Brian. It's been a little bit of a while.
Yeah, right. With the COVID shutdown, it's been well over a year. But now that we've both been vaccinated, and as the bishop said, we're not just getting back to normal, we're trying to get back to better. And so this is so great to have you back to the Berkshires.
Very happy to be here. And it looks like you've been well prepared here. I think you were telling me that you grew some beans.
Yeah.
You're a really big gardener anyway.
We love to garden. We're actually starting a community garden out here behind the church. So a downtown garden that we hope to get the community involved in, and food for the poor, food for the local community. Should be great.
Oh, what a great idea. So what did you grow? What do you have for us today?
Yeah, so when you said we could do another segment, I said, well, what do I have left from the garden? And think about, that was last year. One of the things I grew was beans. So I have kidney beans and these cannellini beans, these white beans. And I thought we'd make a sort of a bean Tuscan soup. They call it ribollita. It's a nice way. So the star of the show is going to be our beans and our bread. We'll see what happens there. But we also need some tomatoes and spinach and some herbs like rosemary and parsley and onion. Some pancetta. Always got to go to pancetta. And then the garlic and the carrots and the celery, salt and pepper and olive oil. So it's a simple Tuscan soup.
Nice Italian meal. If you're having your family over, if they've all been vaccinated and everybody can finally get together now, you can make one big pot and it can feed everybody, right?
Yeah, and it's sort of also spring cleaning. Like if you're making it, you're saying, oh, I've got this in the refrigerator. Will that go? If you like it, throw it in there too.
Everything goes in soup.
Right? Yeah. So let's get started. So I took the beans last night and I soaked them. So they're in just simple water overnight. I've been rinsing them before the show started. So I'm just going to drain the beans. So we've got our beans in our pot. We'll let that come to a boil. And then while that's going to come to a boil, while it's going to boil for about 30 minutes, we're going to start our base. Okay. So our base is going to take, start with our pancetta and oil.
Now if you have canned beans, you wouldn't have to boil them for very long. This is just because they're dried and they need to cook, right?
Right, right. Yeah. So as you're going through, when we start this, we'll try to taste, see how soft or firm they are. You don't want your beans to turn to total mush. Okay. So we're going to add our pancetta to our oil.
And pancetta is what?
So it's sort of Italian bacon. So it's a more flavorful, thicker cut.
Have you been making a lot of meals during COVID?
Yeah, so during COVID, it's been sort of, I haven't gained a lot of weight.
No, you look great. You look the same.
A little bit of a health issue, but no, it's comfort food is very comforting, especially in the depths of COVID. Oh, yeah. And I love to cook, so at the end of a long day, it was just a great way to find some de-stress and kind of relax a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so what else do we have here? We have pancetta in the frying pan.
Right, so I like to let that get a little bit brown. We've got 30 minutes or so with that, so we have time for this to cook up. So the beans are starting to boil. We'll put our lid aside so they can just do a gentle boil. You don't want to overdo it. And then the pancetta is starting to simmer.
It smells great already.
Oh, anything with bacon, right?
Yes, that's my favorite.
So with the bacon, we'll add onions to clarify. It was just basically, this was actually a larger onion than some people might like, but I took one onion and I just chopped it up.
Just your traditional white onion?
Yeah, I tend to go with Vidalia or sweeter onions.
Oh, I love Vidalia
onions. Big fan of the sort of tradition, yeah.
Yeah.
And then celery. And again, a stalk of celery, chop it up. Carrots.
Did you grow those carrots too?
I did grow carrots, but there are not any left. It's so sad. You get to the end of your garden and all the great things, and then by about November, they're all gone.
All of the good things in the fall, you know, you have apple picking and peaches in the late summer, and all of the vegetables you harvest, and then you get to the middle of the winter, unless you can things,
right?
Like tomatoes or whatnot.
So we'll just let that do a low simmer, low, kind of fry it up. The other star of our show, though, is the Tuscan bread. So if you can get a decent ciabatta, It's kind of fun. And especially now, we're getting back to better, this idea of like, I don't know, eating well, finding good things. And I always think of bread as the bread of life. I always go back to Jesus. So for me, whenever either I make bread or I cook with good bread, it's wonderful. And so with this, what we're going to do is we're going to cube it. Well, so while our other things are going along, all I'm going to do is just kind of make it into bite-sized cubes. So our beans have been going for a while. And they're starting to get tender, but they still have firmness.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to take some of our beans. If you have a food processor, this is a nice, just a blender.
And this just makes a thickening of the stock at the base.
So you get a fullness of the bean flavor, and you still have some of the bean texture with the other ones. So our beans are being stirred. We're going to take our base, I'm going to pour it in. Right, so we stir in our base. Boil again, we're going to add in our tomatoes. So we'll let that cook, and then we'll add the spinach.
Definitely getting a rainbow of colors in there, Father Brian.
And it's thickening up, but it's still kind of a loose soup. It's very...
Yep. So then you have a trick.
But here's our trick. The other star of the show is our bread. So let's have some soup.
Okay. Well, it's been great being here, Father. Thank you so much for your recipe. And we'll actually put that on I Observe and let people make it for themselves. But here's to getting back to better, right?
Yes, and thank you for all coming out to visit us. It's really wonderful. So
pleasure.
Back to better.
Yeah. And cheers.
Cheers.
Oh, this is delicious.
Right?
Yes. And for this week, that's Reel to Reel. Thanks so much for watching. And before we go, if you haven't already given to the 2021 Annual Catholic Appeal, please consider making your contribution today. Reel to Reel and the Chalice of Salvation Weekly Televised Mass are both supported in part by donations to the Appeal. To help fund these programs, as well as the more than 40 ministries and services supported by the ACA, make your donation through our secure site at diospringfield.org. If you need help making your gift, call the Annual Catholic Appeal office at 413-452-0670 and Kathy Harrington will help you out. And be sure to follow the latest news of the Catholic Church, both here in the Diocese of Springfield and around the world on our news and information site, iobserve.org, and also on Facebook at Catholic Communications. For our viewers on WWLP TV 22, due to NBC coverage of the Kentucky Derby, we will be off next weekend. The rest of you will see an encore show, and I will see you right back here in 2 weeks with a brand new edition of Reel to Reel, your window on the world around you. See you then.
Reel to Reel is a production of the Catholic Communications Corporation, funded in part by the Annual Catholic Appeal, and the support of you, our faithful viewers.
Here are 5 reasons to support the Annual Catholic Appeal. 1. Emergency assistance to those in need. 2. Inspiring young people to grow in their faith. 3. Keeping our homebound connected in the faith. 4. Crisis help for young families. And 5. Catholic education, forming our future leaders in mind and heart. We are sowing the seeds of God's love with your contribution. Please donate today online at diospringfield.org.